as well as probably your grandmother. The age-old advice is be thoughtful about your associations, because you all are together creating your, your joint conscious level, which is something we need to work on, all of us now. A kind thought into the collective whole is probably the best thing you could do. Um, this is a story that has taken me 45 years to be able to express it. When I was a young woman living in Washington, D.C., I really came from such a bland background. It's a good way to describe it. And the things that I have encountered along my way did not fit in with the little Susie cream cheese suburbs mentality that I had. Not that that's bad, you know. I would take that in a minute, simplicity. However, that's not the way it worked out. I was coming home from then National Airport, now Reagan Airport, and I was sharing a limo with some businessmen on various drop-offs in the city. And it was one of those spring days, April sort of, that when you've been in a snowy, cold climate, when spring hits, everybody feels good. And I was sitting in the back seat with a young businessman, not much older than myself, and we were laughing, just 'cause, And we went into a tunnel, and we were going pretty fast, and things was whizzing by us, and we had the tunnels in some cities are yellow tile, well lit. As we descended into the tunnel in the downtown area, I was talking, and then the next thing I knew, I was in the future. There was, I don't know what let me know I was in it, but I'm not kidding. Talking and laughing in the future. I was dressed, believe it or not, I remember, in my out-of-body experience, I remember what I'm wearing. I know I'm supposed to be searching for God, but hey, I don't want to spend eternity in a bad hair day, or, faux pas in my wardrobe. So I Venus on the midheaven. That says it all. But I was in the future. I knew I was in. There was nothing to tell me that. I knew it. And it was a little cold, and I was in a cavern, a gigantic, the biggest cavern I could imagine. And nobody was there. Wherever I was, it was part of civilization and big. I then started to come up what seemed like stairs, and I came out onto Constitution Avenue. And if you've been to Washington, Washington is impressive with the very Greek, large, pillared monuments and buildings. I believe I was in front of Constitution Hall, which is wonderful. It's beautiful. It's also symbolic. That's where our Constitution is. That reminds us of who we are. I was coming out, and to my surprise, there's nobody there. There also was nothing alive. Not, if there were trees, there was maybe one or two trees, scraggly. Around the monuments was weeds. There wasn't even any healthy grass, and there was nothing, no life. And there was not a bird, there was not anything. And the thing that surprised me, being a major city, no cars, not in Area 1, and not a person inside. How could this be? I had the distinct feeling that this was our future Rome. I had the distinct feeling that it was like what happened to Rome, that it just fell. And one day, people would go to Rome that hadn't been there for a century, and all they saw was gigantic, big marble remnants or relics of a civilization. Well, that's where I was. And I thought, I don't know why. Of course, I didn't understand that. But I did know that something bad had happened. Where were the people? And how about birds, insects? Washington is kind of a moist area of the world, and there's always birds and insects. It's this noise of the city is constant, not here. The cavern was also, it was impressively big. Next thing I knew, the young man next to me, this little businessman in a suit, was shaking me. Are you all right? Are you all right? And I snapped back. I knew I came back from somewhere, that the tunnel had set it off. And I did as I started to do for unusual things. Oh, no, I'm fine. I'm just fine. I just have a cold. I would do things like that. Anything to get out of explaining what the hell happened. And it never left me. When you have a real experience, out of body or near death, you remember every detail. The realness of it, if it's a dream, sometimes a dream can border on these experiences, but they wear off. Not a true near death or OBE. You don't forget anything, not a detail. I remember what I was wearing, and I was not wearing what I was wearing in the limo. So I just kind of stared. What the hell was that? I tried to forget it. My life went on. For many reasons, I moved away from Washington, D.C. and relocated to Miami. And there I stayed for a good 12 to 15 years. And one day I decided to come back. My dear grandparents were getting old. My mother wasn't doing well. It was time to go home. So life went on, and I began living downtown, kind of in a Watergate complex. And if you look at any of my YouTubes, you'll see about an altercation I had with the Trumpster in traffic. Oh my goodness. So, but that's in one of the other YouTubes I did. I wouldn't take, the surprise. I come back to Washington, and there's the metro. In the time I was gone, they built this magnificent, one of the best in the world as far as amazing metro system. I never heard of it. Was I surprised? And when I saw it, I was like, what? I was with a friend. I'm like, what is this? And they said, oh, they've been building this for years. It's so fantastic. And as soon as I went into one of the metro stations, and I lived near Foggy Bottom and the Constitution Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue, that area, I went to the subway, and I knew that's where I had been in this experience in the future. Well, I wouldn't, once I became a resident of the capital again, I wouldn't go in the subway, and I would not wear an outfit like that. And I did remind me never to be blonde. I said, okay, the young woman in the future vision had brown hair, so I dyed my hair blonde. Do remind me never to try blonde again. But it just didn't work for me. But if in some bizarre way I'm saving the civilization by a hairdo, I'll do it. My sacrifice. well, since then, of course, I've learned a lot about how we have future probabilities and all kind. I didn't know. I didn't have a word to explain that ever. What was in my background or vocabulary, and we are in a more open age. So, and then a couple years later, I had OBE, and I I hit a milk truck in a Volkswagen, and guess who won? The, guess who won? Anyhow, um, that was my vision. And when I went back to Washington, there were the caverns, and they were like my vision. And I, in the cavern, in this in this, I guess it was, I don't know what to call it. I, uh, I recognized the stairs. Walking out of a cavern with stairs. So what happened to me did happen in the future. Ever since then, I tried to think. Nuclear bomb? No, buildings were still there. Um, germ warfare? I didn't know about that either. There seemed like there was maybe a little bit of grasshoppers in the grass. To my memory, it's like when you go to Rome, exactly like it, with big pillars, and the buildings were not fallen down. They were intact. Like one day everybody just walked away. It hadn't been pilfered or anything else. And I didn't know who to go to. I didn't know what to say. Now it's 2018. Golly, I guess it's been 40 or 35 years. I'm seeing what's happening in our world. It can be many things. You have to look at the climate changes and what's happening, and that's my thought. That's only it could be many things, but I personally would like to skip the whole thing. That it happened, yes. What did it mean? Every time I meditate on it, I do feel like it's the weather. It's everything. It's everything. And it's time for us to be more mindful, to meditate, to think good thoughts, which is, in America right now, because of the politics, we're all attacking each other. And, really. But that's my story. I wanted to share that. Getting it off my chest. Can you imagine living with an experience like that, and what was it? Perhaps, I don't think my out-of-body, or rather near-death experience was also in that category. It just like, what the hell was that? Nothing in my background, trust me. You're a little cheerleader from the suburbs. What is that? Nobody explained any of this to me ever, So, not a word for it. That was the problem. I never told anybody. So, I am taping other people's amazing stories. Everybody has a life story. Everybody has an entire universe within them. If you think the universe out there in the Milky Way, way up there, if you think that that's big, your inner self is bigger and more glorious and beautiful. And so those are the things I wanted to explore with my, I call it a metaphysical tea. And we meet once a month, and we talk about such things. And now I've learned YouTube, and I can record them. We're going to see where this goes. There's so much now in the internet, and things have changed so much, so very much. But I think you can only, I guess, change the world with one thought at a time, one kind of thought at a time. I now follow Yogananda's group or teachings he has is the Ananda villages. Yogananda did see something like this, and he warned his disciple Swami Kriyananda, and he said, and the one thing Yogananda was worried about was Korea. You have to imagine, Yogananda came here in the 1920s. He went through a World War I, the Great Depression, and World War II. There were bad men and boogeymen and scary things. Those are scary times. So the one thing Yogananda was worried about, and there was plenty to worry about, was North Korea. Now here we are, gosh, how many years? 70 years later? No, well, let's not do the math right now. It's a long time after Yogananda's crossing over to the other side, and he wanted to have Swami Kriyananda create these villages called Ananda villages. They're self-sustaining, and they follow Hindu philosophies of ahimsa, which means do no harm. Martin Luther King was an admirer of Gandhi, who freed India under the teachings of ahimsa, non-violence, non-violent protest. That's what Martin Luther King got that philosophy from, and the whole world has changed. The world can change from a thought, if you think about it. India gained its independence about the time Yogananda started to write his famous novel, Autobiography of a Yogi. These Ananda villages are all over the world. So if you want to go to ananda.com and start to listen to their lectures, tapes, if anything, it will make you more grounded and peaceful than this outer world of Maya can offer you. And you're not in so much fear. And when you're raising your vibrations, you will be in the right place at the right time for you and your fellow man. Because you can't plan things. I figured it out by the time I was 20. I gave it a try, but there's a bigger picture. I did learn astrology too. I did put some, I put about 50 charts up on YouTube of famous people and the story of their lives. So everybody has a story. That's my story. I'm going to meet with some of the metaphysical tea people this Tuesday, and I'm going to see if anybody has one of those pivotal moments, that moment that you got on your path, or that you need to express just to process it for your own cathartic experience. So I'll bid you adieu. Go back and look at my friend Michelle's YouTube. I labeled it Touched by an Angel, because she had a real angelic experience. That's a wonderful story. Those things we need to listen to. It puts you in a conscious level. And your conscious level is the most important thing you've got. So remember Yogananda's words. Either you're moving towards a guide or away from guide. Every moment, every breath, and every breath is a new beginning. I look forward to sharing these experiences with my fellow I call them consciousness explorers, and I'm going to continue with my psychic development tapes. I've had some very encouraging feedback. So on this YouTube, I put information for how to join the Facebook group I set up for sharing experiences, and if you have an experience that would, you've always wanted to tell somebody, or you just need to process it, in the South, when you're at a revival and you've had something amazing happen, you'll jump up and raise up to the sky and say, "I need a witness. I need a witness." They need to get something off their mind, and it can be anything, but I need a witness is often with the revivals, and the people feel good. They feel good. They said what was on their mind. And honesty is your friend. So I will say I do, namaste. Do look at Michelle's Touched by an Angel, and I'll leave some links below. If you are interested in, it could be a 5-minute story. Michelle's is a 5-minute story. Share it. That's your job. God can give that experience to you by mistake. So I love you, and I will bid you adieu. I want you to look, I guess it's going to be down here. There's a kitty cat. Now it does move around, so if it moves over here or goes up there, it's kind of a quantum kitty cat. So when you look at it, it can move, or the viewer changes, you start to interact, or if you touch it, it might meow. So anything can happen in the world of Sahara. Just subscribe. Leave your email if you have an experience you'd like to share, and it can be very, some people it's 10 minutes or most 5 minutes, but your life can change in the blink of an eye. So, and my best friend, when she was dying, she said, "Oh, but it'll just be a blink of an eye before we're together again." Said that was the wisdom of my friend Yogi. Rosie. I love you, Rosa. I love you, Rosie, and I bid you adieu.